For the first 15 minutes of Raya the Last Dragon, I was expecting this entire movie to be just another schlock Disney film like Frozen. And I'm sorry to all the Frozen fans, but if I'm being honest, it really wasn't a good film. But if you're still here, let me tell you about Raya. The film begins with every cliche in the book, a montage of the backstory of the world setting, a spunky kid ready for adventure and action, and in true Disney style, a talented young girl who is a great fighter. And it becomes very apparent that the writing is very predictable. Most of the time, I was saying the lines even before the characters said it, and the early plot twist was not a surprise at all. I know they have to begin the story somehow, but for the first 15 or so minutes, I was actually bored. It was much too similar to everything Disney has done recently, and the main characters talk like they're from downtown Los Angeles, not some magical Asian continent or planet or whatever. But then finally the bad guys show up and the plot moves forward. And even though I knew what was going to happen, I actually started to get interested in what was going on. For about 5 minutes, until the dragon shows up, and she's a comedic relief. And needless to say, the comparison to Mulan was immediate. And this is my main gripe with the film. Had they taken the story more seriously, this could have been amazing. But I understand that it's Disney, so they had to inject jokes that are out of place for the tone of the scene, and slapstick for the sake of a cuddly animal character in which the dragons actually resemble My Little Ponies. Sometimes the script tries to be cool and stylistic, so they'll talk like Kim Possible and tell you the sitch, and have cel-shaded montages of what they're thinking. It's so jarring with the rest of the film, because it's not done well, and it's not funny. Well, actually, I did laugh at one of these scenes, but that was the only time I laughed throughout the entire film. The film feels like it's trying to be two things: a Disney film like Mulan or Aladdin, with the quirky characters and very formulaic script, and on the other side, a serious adventure film. The art style is phenomenal, taking cues from different Asian cultures and religions. Action pieces feel lively and dynamic, and the 3D rendering almost looks photorealistic at times. And some parts of the film will make you forget that you're watching animation. It's really well done, but then the lousy cringe of dialogue starts up again, and you're taken right out of it. The script really has a problem trying to juggle the realism of the fantasy world and the cartoony zaniness of Disney films. There is a point of the film where they meet up with a con artist's baby, and I just tuned out. Another checkmark for the Disney executives. This film is too serious. We need a quirky dragon like Mushu, and a loyal but clumsy horse type pill bug thing, and a cute baby. People love babies, right? It worked for The Mandalorian, but it doesn't work here. The cast of characters don't ever really complement each other, aside from Raya and Sisu the dragon. And even then, that's a stretch until the very end of the film. Nobody really does anything aside from Raya and the main antagonist, and mostly they're just there to make it feel like this long journey was had and to create an emotional payoff at the end of the film. Disney has been forever trying to recapture the magic of the 90s films, but in my opinion, they've fallen flat every time. And this film is no different, which is a real shame because there is a much better film in here, had they not tried to shoehorn in the same tropes we've seen before. Can you imagine a dragon that didn't look like My Little Pony, but more realistic like The Last Guardian, and not zany or quirky, but innocent and almost naive like a young teen, kind of how Raya was at the beginning? I won't mention any spoilers, but I think that would have resonated more with me considering the message of the film, which is about bringing people together and breaking down the walls of division and hate or distrust. Of course, the message of the film is used sparingly, since it has to compete with the quirky script. Only at the end does it really come into play. And speaking of the ending, you do have to hand it to Disney. Even though I really didn't care about the characters all that much, they did manage to tug at my emotions. It's so formulaic, but it always gets me. All in all, the film could have been much more than what it was, and you can feel the Disney meddling throughout. The adventure didn't feel as epic as I thought it could be with what they set up, and they waste time on set pieces that aren't necessary or funny, when they could have used that time to build on the characters they already had, or at least figure out what to do with them. Had they toned down the comedic relief, or at least had actually been funny, the bare bones plot would have been more enjoyable, and its flaws wouldn't have been as noticeable. And though I really liked Raya as a character, I would have loved to explore this world through her eyes, instead of beginning with a montage of what happened before. You know, a little mystery goes a long way, but this film holds your hand right from the beginning, and any awe that you might have had is diffused a little bit. For me, it's a film of what could have been instead of what it is, and even though it's not a great film or even an instant classic in my book, it is an okay film that I wouldn't mind watching again. Right now, it's difficult to recommend the film for two reasons. Movie theaters are still dealing with limited capacity, and Disney Plus is a humongous paywall. It really is a sign of the times. But if you're able to see Raya and the Last Dragon, and you aren't overly critical of the dialogue and simple plot, it's worth watching, but I don't think you need to rush out to see it right away.